Hi, we're going to center some clay today. First thing we do is roll it round in our hands and then smack it down hard on the wheel. Then we get our wheel spinning to usually about 2/3 the speed or 3/4 speed. Not usually the highest speed that the wheel can go. Highest is a little too high, so I tweaked it back a little bit. And then we're going to wet the clay, but when I wet the clay, I always have one hand on the side of the clay, one hand reaching for water. And it doesn't have to be a lot of water. It doesn't have to be dousing with a whole sponge worth. It can just be a few drips. And every few seconds, you're going to re-drip and water the clay a little bit. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about posture. I stand with myself kind of relaxed and kind of hunkered down, shoulders kind of curved in around the splash pan, and my forearms are resting firmly on the splash pan to ensure a nice steady pose, or I'm settled in and I'm not going to tip over. A lot of people will get to the wheel and their back and shoulders are straight and back, and then they don't have as much strength and they're not able to center themselves over the clay, which makes it harder to have control over the clay. So my feet are a little separated, my knees are bent a little bit, kind of leaning in with my core against the splash pan, and my arms are on the splash pan. I'm re-wetting the clay, and my thumbs are crisscrossed over the top of the clay because the base of my thumbs is pushing down, and then my hands are curved around the clay, cupping the clay in, keeping it wet, and as I'm steady, so will the clay become steady. So I just brought the clay up a little taller because it was kind of wide, so I squeezed in a little bit, nice and wet, and I'm keeping my thumbs together so that my hands are connected firmly, and I'm re-wetting, and I'm just going to continue to manipulate and smooth the clay till it's not wiggling. Okay, it's already not wiggling, but that went kind of fast, and it's not really, it doesn't always go that fast. So I'm going to show you again. I'm just going to keep my thumbs crisscrossed together, wet the clay, steady myself, and with my wet hands and steady hands, I can steady the clay. And it doesn't have to take a long time to do that. As long as you're breathing evenly and you've got a good posture, you're going to be able to control the clay. But this is what I see a lot of times in my studio. People will let themselves be taken by the clay, and then they wiggle around with the clay, and before long, their whole upper body is wiggling. So I'm always encouraging them to take a deep breath, drop the shoulders, loosen the neck, firm the arms on the splash pan, and steady your hands and arms. With your thumbs crisscrossed and connecting firmly, you can steady the clay. I want to say easily, but I know it's not easy. It's easy for me because I practice a lot, but if you just shift and let the clay slide through, you keep yourself steady and let the clay slide through nice and wet, it's going to take the shape that your hands are giving it. All it takes is for you to remain steady and braced, breathing evenly and keeping it nice and wet. Like so. So that's how you center your lump of clay.